What you just heard was a protest in Ukraine fighting for LGBTQ+ rights, which raises the question, how does conflict between Ukraine and Russia impact this vulnerable group of people?
In this segment of Ukraine Simplified, we'll take a look at how the Russian conflict is affecting the LGBTQ+ community in Ukraine.
We are your hosts, Ava,
Grace,
and Jada.
And we'll talk about how Russia treats the LGBTQ+ community, how the community in Ukraine was both pre-war and during the war, and where Ukraine refugees have been fleeing to.
First, we'll talk about how Ukraine was pre-war and how it is now. Pre-war, Ukraine was not a very accepting country with LGBTQ+ rights. Groups proposed laws of same-sex marriages, but the Ukraine president declined. Single parents are allowed to adopt, but not same-gender couples. Some people think that they should just move to another country, but they can't just go anywhere that accepts them, because they have to go anywhere besides Russia. However, it seems like things are improving in Ukraine. For example, many marches for LGBTQ rights took place in Ukraine.
Next, we will talk about the laws in Russia and how they will impact Ukraine if Russia fully takes over. One law is that Russia banned same-sex marriages, meaning that if Russia takes over, then same-sex marriages will not be allowed in Ukraine, which will cause a lot of big problems. If Russia takes over, then the LGBTQ+ people will have a very hard time living there. They won't get treated very well because of the law. Also, to get an idea on how Russians have been treating people who are part of this community, an LGBTQ rights activist, Yelena Grigorieva, was murdered in Russia. She was posted on a website known for hunting down and killing people who were known or thought to be part of the community. After receiving death threats, she went to a judge to report the scenario, but nothing was done. Later, she was found dead, strangled, and stabbed to death.
Now, we'll talk about the Ukrainian refugees that are part of the LGBTQ+ community. Almost all of the Ukrainian refugees are fleeing to Poland. Unfortunately for the community, Poland is rated the most homophobic country in Europe, according to the Rainbow Map by ILGA Europe. According to a study conducted in 2021, LGBTQ+ people are likely to face violence, denial of basic services, arbitrary detention, and abuse by security forces, among other kinds of discrimination. In Poland, same-sex marriages and adopting children into a family that has two same-sex parents is illegal. It has been predicted that these laws will probably lead to more refugees leaving Poland and going elsewhere in Europe. However, it is still unknown whether those places will be any more accepting. Some might say that the least of Ukrainians' refugees' concerns is to flee to a country that is accepting. They're in the middle of a war. Why would they be worrying about an accepting country? All they need to worry about is getting somewhere safe. While this could be considered a valid counterclaim, are these people really safe if they are in a country that does not accept them? People of the LGBT community are commonly assaulted in the streets in the homophobic countries of Europe. So truly, these people are not safe if they are in a country that does not accept them.
In conclusion, overall, life for Ukrainians that are part of LGBTQ+ community has been very difficult. It was already difficult before the war, but it is much worse and more difficult now that the war has happened.
Russia has been treating the people of the community absolutely terrible, and Ukrainian refugees who are part of the community are having a very hard time as they are fleeing to homophobic countries. Even though these things have been hugely impacting the community, there is still hope for the future. They are still protesting and fighting for their rights.